It all started when the Harris family noticed a moving truck pulling up across the street. For the past 5 years, their quiet suburban neighborhood had been just that: quiet, friendly, and mostly uneventful. But that summer morning, the air felt a little different. The Harris family, me, my wife Lisa, and our 2 kids, Ethan and Sophie, were outside watering the lawn when a tall woman stepped out of the truck. She had an air of confidence that didn't quite sit right. Her name was Karen, Lisa said later after meeting her briefly at the mailbox. Karen had moved in next door, into the empty house that had been up for sale for months. She was middle-aged, blonde, impeccably dressed with that kind of smile that feels a little too tight, like it's hiding something. At first, everything seemed normal. Karen waved, introduced herself, and even brought a small basket of cookies as a welcome to the neighborhood gesture. Lisa was polite but wary. Something about Karen's eagerness felt off. The first odd moment happened just a few days later. I was out on the porch fixing the mailbox, and I noticed Karen lingering near her own window, watching me. Not just a casual glance, more like intense scrutiny. I caught her eye and gave a nod, but she quickly looked away. Maybe she's just shy, Lisa suggested, but I wasn't convinced. Then the incident started. The sound of footsteps outside our windows late at night, strange car noises down the block when no one else was around, and weird glints of light reflecting off something tiny mounted near Karen's porch. One afternoon, Sophie came running inside, her face pale. "Dad, I think someone was looking at me through the window when I was playing outside." I frowned. "Did you see who it was?" She shook her head. "I only saw a lady. She was behind some plants, kind of hiding." Lisa and I exchanged worried looks. We tried to brush it off, telling ourselves it was probably nothing. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that Karen was watching us more than she let on. Late that night, I took the dog for a walk and noticed the porch light on at Karen's house. Unusual for that time. As I passed, I glimpsed a small black object near her front window. Squinting closer, it looked like a camera. The next morning, I brought it up to Lisa, who advised caution. "We don't want to accuse anyone without proof," she said, but I knew we had to keep an eye on things. That was the beginning of a long, exhausting ordeal. Karen wasn't just any nosy neighbor. She was something else entirely. And as the days passed, the web of her spying began to tighten around us. The next few weeks turned our peaceful life upside down. At first, Karen's spying was subtle. A quick glance through the blinds, a random car parked suspiciously across the street, or the faint hum of something electronic from her house when she thought no one was paying attention. But as time went on, the invasions became bolder, and it was impossible to ignore. It started with little things: packages mysteriously misplaced, family conversations cut short when Karen was around, and that creepy feeling that someone was always watching, even in the privacy of our own backyard. One afternoon, I was in the kitchen prepping dinner when Lisa burst in, holding her phone with a frown. "Look at this," she said, showing me a video from Sophie. The footage was shaky, but clear enough. It showed a tiny lens peeking out from behind a garden gnome in our front yard. I stared at the screen, stomach sinking. "That's definitely a camera," I muttered. Lisa's eyes were sharp. "We need to find out where else she might have cameras." That night, we decided to conduct a sweep of our property. Armed with flashlights and the phone's flashlight app, we combed through the yard and the house perimeter. Behind flower pots, inside the mailbox, on the corners of the garage. Every little nook got inspected. And sure enough, we found more. Hidden in the branches of a tree, a small black camera pointed directly at our living room window. Another inside a fake rock near the driveway. It was like Karen had turned her entire property into a surveillance zone. We felt violated, our privacy shattered by the very person who was supposed to be a neighbor, not a predator. The next day, I tried talking to Karen directly. I walked over, heart pounding, and asked her calmly, "Hey Karen, I just wanted to check. Do you have cameras pointing at our house?" She laughed it off, her eyes narrowing. "What? No, I don't spy on people. That's ridiculous." But her smile didn't reach her eyes. It was cold, almost menacing. From then on, Karen's behavior shifted. She became more aggressive in her spying, parking her car so she could watch our driveway, lingering outside our windows for longer periods, and even trying to strike up conversations that felt more like interrogations. One day, Ethan came home from school looking shaken. "Mom, Karen was at the bus stop asking me weird questions about what we do at home." Lisa was furious. "That's not normal. We have to do something." At this point, we felt trapped in our own home, like prisoners under constant surveillance. Then, things got worse. One evening, I was working late in the garage when I heard the faint buzzing of a drone. Peeking outside, I saw a small device hovering near our backyard, shining a light through the window. I immediately grabbed the phone and recorded the drone as it retreated toward Karen's house. This was beyond spying. It was harassment. We started locking all curtains, installing blinds, and reinforcing doors. But Karen's hidden cameras were everywhere, watching, recording, invading every corner of our lives. The thought of what she might have captured, our family moments, private conversations, everything, made me sick. It was clear that Karen wasn't just a creepy neighbor. She was obsessed with us, and this obsession was only getting worse. I knew then that we had to fight back. But how do you take down someone who hides behind a camera lens and a fake smile? How do you expose a spy without becoming a victim yourself? The answer came unexpectedly. One afternoon, while clearing some bushes near the fence, I found a small, weatherproof case buried under the leaves. Inside was a DVR system, a little black box with wires running into it. I took it inside, heart racing, and plugged it into my laptop. What I saw made my blood run cold. Hours of footage, our front yard, our driveway, the kids playing, Lisa and me on the porch, even private moments inside the house. Karen had been recording us nonstop. The invasion wasn't just real, it was documented. Now, with this proof, it was time to plan. We needed to expose Karen for what she was before this nightmare destroyed our family completely. The moment I saw those hours of footage, it felt like the walls around me were closing in. Every second captured, every private moment laid bare. It was like Karen had been living inside our home without us knowing. The sheer invasion was staggering. Lisa came home just as I was scrolling through the files on my laptop. I didn't have to say anything. Her face told the whole story. Shock, anger, and heartbreak. "We need to go to the police," she said firmly. "This is illegal." I nodded. "I agree. But we have to be careful. Karen is dangerous. I can see it in her eyes." We made a plan to collect as much evidence as possible before confronting the authorities. We couldn't just walk in empty-handed and expect things to go smoothly. The next day, we set out to search Karen's property more thoroughly. behind flower pots, under bushes, on her porch, and even inside her garage. We looked for anything suspicious. It was almost like a game of hide and seek, but with stakes that felt much higher. In her backyard shed, hidden beneath a tarp, I found something chilling. A notebook filled with detailed notes about our family, our routines, schedules, even information about our friends and neighbors. There were pages filled with observations on when we left the house, who came to visit, and what we talked about. It was like she'd been planning this invasion for months, maybe years. "Lisa, look at this," I said, flipping through the notebook. Her hands trembled as she read. "This is obsession. This isn't normal." We also discovered more hidden cameras, inside flower pots, behind vents, and even on the underside of Karen's mailbox, all aimed directly at our house. Karen had built a surveillance fortress, watching us constantly. We decided it was time to confront her, face to face. I walked over to her house that evening, heart pounding but determined. Lisa and the kids stayed inside, safe. Karen answered the door with her usual tight smile. I held up the DVR box. "We know what you've been doing, Karen. You've been spying on my family, recording us without permission. This has to stop." Her eyes flashed with anger for a split second before she masked it with a calm voice. "I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe you're imagining things." I placed the DVR on her porch step. "We have proof, and we're going to the police." Karen laughed, a cold, hard sound that sent chills down my spine. "You think this ends with the police? You don't know who you're messing with." That night, the harassment escalated. Our lights flickered mysteriously, strange noises echoed outside, and the sense of being watched grew unbearable. But the turning point came when Lisa received an anonymous letter slipped under our door. A thinly veiled threat, warning us to stop digging or face consequences. Fear mixed with resolve. We went to the police the next morning, armed with the DVR footage, the notebook, and the hidden cameras we had found. The officers listened, took statements, and promised to investigate. But I could tell they were skeptical. Cases like this were tricky. Without catching Karen in the act, it might be hard to prove beyond a doubt. We needed more evidence, something public, undeniable, and powerful enough to expose Karen's twisted obsession once and for all. That's when I thought of the local news. After leaving the police station, Lisa and I knew the investigation might take a long time, or worse, get bogged down in legal red tape. Karen was crafty, and without concrete public proof, she could keep hiding behind lies and smiles. I decided to take matters into my own hands. "If we want to stop her, we have to catch her on camera," I told Lisa. "But this time, it has to be irrefutable, something the whole neighborhood, even the news, can see." Lisa nodded. "We need evidence she can't deny." Over the next few days, we set up our own surveillance system. Hidden cameras on our porch, security lights, and motion sensors. We also made sure to keep detailed logs of Karen's suspicious activities. Our goal was to catch her red-handed, spying, recording, or harassing us in a way that couldn't be twisted or ignored. Karen, meanwhile, seemed to sense something was wrong. Her behavior became more erratic. She'd stand outside her house for hours, watching us with that icy stare. One evening, she even parked a car in front of our driveway, blocking us in for nearly an hour. We stayed calm but alert. Then came the breakthrough. One afternoon, while Lisa and I were inside, the motion sensor on the backyard camera triggered. We rushed to the monitor and saw Karen, climbing over our fence, holding a small handheld camera. My blood ran cold. She was trespassing on our property, spying on us directly. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. "We have a trespasser on our property. She's recording us." The dispatcher assured me help was on the way. Karen froze when she heard the sirens. She dropped the camera and sprinted back to her house. When the police arrived, we showed them the footage and the cameras we had set up. This time, they took immediate action, escorting Karen off our property and warning her of legal consequences. The neighborhood buzzed with the news of the incident. Rumors spread fast. People who had once avoided getting involved now came forward with their own stories about Karen. Strange behavior, invasions of privacy, and disturbing obsessions. We decided it was time to take it even further. I contacted a local news reporter, Sarah Jenkins, known for tackling tough community stories. I shared our evidence and asked if she would be interested in doing an investigative piece. Sarah was intrigued and agreed to visit our home. Over the next week, she interviewed Lisa, me, and even neighbors who had experienced similar issues. She reviewed the footage, the notebook, and the police reports. The story was ready. Meanwhile, Karen's attempts to intimidate us increased. She sent angry texts, made threats through neighbors, and even tried to cut our internet cable. But we stood firm, knowing the truth was on our side. Finally, the day arrived. Sarah and her news crew set up cameras outside our house. The report was powerful, exposing Karen's spying operation, the invasion of privacy, and the impact on our family. The footage showed Karen climbing our fence, the hidden cameras, and interviews detailing her obsession. It was clear, undeniable proof. Sarah Jenkins' voice filled. The morning the news aired felt surreal. Lisa, the kids, and I sat glued to the TV, hearts pounding as he living room. Tonight, a local family's nightmare comes to light. A story of obsession, invasion, and a neighborhood shaken to its core. The segment cut to footage of Karen lurking near the Harris family's property, hidden cameras, and chilling surveillance clips. Neighbors were interviewed, sharing their own experiences and fears. Then came our interview. I tried to keep my voice steady as I described how Karen's spying had shattered our sense of safety. Lisa spoke about the toll on our kids, the fear in their eyes, and the loss of innocence. Even Ethan and Sophie bravely shared how it felt to be watched, how it changed their world. The segment closed with a warning about privacy, respect, and the dangers of unchecked obsession. The impact was immediate. Phone calls flooded in, supportive messages, tips about Karen's past, and even offers to help with legal advice. Our neighborhood transformed overnight. People who had once whispered about Karen now confronted her, demanding answers. Karen herself went into hiding, avoiding the neighborhood and ignoring calls, but she wasn't done. A week after the report aired, we found our mailbox vandalized, covered in graffiti, with threatening messages scrawled across it. The police were called again, this time treating it as harassment and intimidation. Despite the backlash, the community stood united. Neighborhood meetings were held to discuss safety measures, privacy laws, and how to protect families from similar invasions. We also filed a civil lawsuit against Karen, seeking a restraining order and damages. The legal battle was daunting, but the evidence was on our side. Thanks to the news coverage and the documentation we'd painstakingly gathered. Throughout it all, Lisa and I leaned on each other, determined to protect our family. The story wasn't just about spying anymore. It was about reclaiming our lives and standing up against those who threaten our peace. The court date finally arrived. The courtroom was packed. Neighbors, media, even some local officials showed up. Karen sat across from us, her usual smug expression replaced by something tighter, more desperate. Our lawyer laid out the evidence, the hidden cameras, the DVR footage, the notebook full of obsessive notes, the police reports, and the news coverage that had exposed her to the world. Karen's defense crumbled under the weight of proof. She tried to claim she was only concerned about neighborhood safety, but nobody bought it. The judge issued a permanent restraining order, banning Karen from coming within 500 feet of our property, our family, and even from communicating with us in any way. The court also awarded us damages for emotional distress. For the first time in months, a heavy weight lifted. Karen disappeared from the neighborhood. Some say she moved away. Others whisper she's under investigation for similar cases elsewhere. The community rallied behind us. Our neighborhood installed better security systems, and local law enforcement promised quicker responses to privacy violations. Lisa and I took steps to heal. Therapy for the kids, family days without screens or worries. Our home, once a prison of fear, became a sanctuary again. But more than that, our story sent a message that no one has the right to invade your life, no matter who they are. And sometimes standing up, gathering your proof, and shining a light on the darkness is the only way to take back your peace. After the courtroom victory, life slowly started to return to normal. But healing wasn't instant. It took time, patience, and support. Lisa and I focused on rebuilding the trust and safety we'd lost. We spent evenings just talking, laughing, and making new memories with Ethan and Sophie. Family game nights replaced the constant stress and anxiety. The kids started opening up more, sharing their feelings about everything that had happened. We enrolled them in counseling to help process the trauma of being spied on and harassed. At the neighborhood level, the community came together like never before. We organized safety workshops, installed neighborhood watch programs, and made sure everyone knew their rights and how to protect their privacy. For me, the experience changed how I looked at boundaries, personal, legal, and emotional. It was a lesson in resilience, standing firm even when the odds felt stacked against us. Though scars remained, they reminded us of our strength. The ordeal taught us valuable lessons. First and foremost, trust your instincts. If something feels off, don't ignore it. We also learned how important it is to document everything. Keeping records of incidents, taking photos or videos, and reporting suspicious behavior can make all the difference in legal battles. Another big takeaway was the power of community. Speaking up, sharing your story, and rallying support can break the silence that allows predators like Karen to thrive. Privacy isn't just a right, it's a necessity for a safe home. We realize the importance of standing up not just for ourselves, but for others who might be suffering in silence. Months later, our family finally felt free again. We planted a garden in the backyard, symbolizing growth and renewal. The neighborhood's vibe shifted, once tense and divided, now cooperative and vigilant. Karen's shadow faded, replaced by hope and unity. Our story even inspired local lawmakers to push for stricter privacy laws and harsher penalties for invasive spying. Most importantly, we rebuilt our home into a place of love and security. Every time I watch Ethan and Sophie play without worry, I'm reminded that no matter how dark the storm, the sun always comes back.